Hey coaches, Coach Simpson, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, appreciate you coming by and checking out the resources I usually do. Scheme and X and O, that's the whiteboard marker and the whiteboard. This week though, I'm going to look at doing a little bit different. And so I'm just calling these basically Head Coaching 101. If you know me, you know that I write coaching materials, and so I'm in the middle of one right now, and these are some of the things that I'm kind of fleshing out in a book that's coming up. But I thought it might make a good kind of week or two worth of YouTube messages that may help you in the middle of the season right now if you're a head football coach or head coach of really any sport. These are a couple lessons I want to go through this week, talking about things that a lot of times I know I did not do when I was a young head coach and got better throughout my career, and now that I'm trying to encourage others to do. So today I want to talk to you about developing others inside of your program. And this takes on a lot of different meanings. And a lot of times as a head coach, you're so overwhelmed with just trying to get to Friday night and win that game. And trying to get everybody on the bus and have the game plan in. And we all know how to line up, and we all have all our stuff. And I'm dealing with a booster meeting, and there's a lot of things that are on your plate. So a lot of times we can put so much focus into the immediate result of the win that week that we start to lose the forest for the trees. We start to focus so much on that short term that we're not doing a good job developing the other parts of our program. So here's a few things I want to kind of encourage you to make sure, if you have the power, that you are working on developing. Number one, you need to be developing your coaches. Developing your coaches where they're going to continue to improve, which means giving them opportunities, whether that's in B team games on Monday nights if your state has that, or that's throughout developing practice plans or developing drills. You need to oversee this. You can't just kind of turn them loose, but you need to be trying to develop your coaches and really challenge them. A lot of times as a young head coach, that can be very intimidating. It's one thing to develop players, and we'll get to that in a minute. It's another thing to develop coaches, some who may not really want to be developed. And so it can become a difficult thing as a head coach. But it should always be something that is put forward of you're trying to develop. You're trying to develop your assistant coaches and give them opportunities to be developed, which sometimes can be fun opportunities, like getting a coach on a JV game, or getting to develop a practice plan, or getting to develop a drill that's exciting and fun, good for coaches. Sometimes that needs to be the door is shut and you explain to them some of the things they're going to need to improve on. And that's not as fun a conversation, but it is just as important of a conversation to have. Second thing you need to develop is obviously your players. You know, football is such a quarterback-centered game, and 95% of the offenses you run, you need to be constantly developing not just the quarterback for now, but the quarterback for next, and then the quarterback for next. And then now with transfer rules that are different each state, injuries, COVID still around and kicking for some reason, you better have the next, and even the next. And if you have the ability, you need to be developing those guys in the lower levels, in the junior levels, or even below that. Identifying those guys and developing as many as you can, because you never know, as they get older, which guy is going to kind of become the guy. So having as many quarterbacks developing, even if they're starting in another position. You may have a quarterback, this guy is too good to be on the bench. He's going to start somewhere, but he is our next guy. So we're going to give him dedicated time to develop. And that goes for other positions you may have. That also goes for giving your guys B team games to develop in general, making sure your athletes have the opportunity to compete, to get better, to be coached. A lot of times it becomes very difficult to pay attention to the second or third team, really difficult to pay attention to the junior program when you're so worried about what's going on, Friday night or Saturday, whatever situation you're in. Make sure you are developing your players. You also need developing a culture, developing what you want for the future. So taking notes as you go of, well, this went well and this didn't go well. Especially if you're a new coach, kind of developing what you want it to be. Everyone has an idea up front, and then we put kind of, the tire hits the road and we start to realize, ooh, that wasn't good. scratch that off, or we made this adjustment, it really helped, we're going to work on that. And finally, the last thing, not that it's not important, is you need to be developing your scheme constantly. Looking at your scheme of what you're doing, making sure I'm going to do a whole video on does it match your athletes, but really developing it as you go to continue to mold and grow as a scheme. And that could be offensively, defensively. We all have our core beliefs, and we don't want to abandon those, but we do want to make sure that we are consistently developing and becoming as good as we can schematically to give our kids a chance to succeed. So there's a lot of other areas you need to be developing, but those are the four major ones. I want to encourage you. You know, if you're in the middle of the season right now, maybe you're 3-0 or you're 0-3 or whatever you are, don't get so caught up on 1 week that you don't look at your overall program and at least make an intent to develop these key things that are going to come through and give you stability. A lot of times as a younger coach, we think of this season, and as an older coach, we recognize you're building, hopefully, a foundation that you hope will sustain you for multiple years. So make sure you're developing your program.